that is the result of silence. Silence on this issue resulted in an entire generation of Britain's daughters being kidnapped, raped and tortured. And it isn't that, because my obviously subject that I look at on all of this is Islam, what influence Islam plays. But there's a multitude of things, because it's not just that the Islamic gangs took the girls to rape, it's that every single institution that was there to protect the children failed and remained silent. So it's one problem having all the Islamic rapists who see our children as worthless and want to take them. And it's not even about sexual gratification for them, it's about total destruction of the person. It's about taking the thing that you all hold dear, your most protected thing, which is your daughter, taking it and destroying it. And I say that in the sense that these men would take the girls up to the woods, they'd rape them, and then they'd urinate all over them. It was all about torture, all about degrading them, all about the comments they're making whilst they're doing it, all about the absolute destruction of that individual. So as I watched this for years and I started an organisation to speak about it, it was then the fact that every police force, not one police force, now one police force, one council, okay, failure. Every single police force, every single council, our Home Office, every social services, everyone. So people can talk about the power of political correctness. I don't think anyone would really understand how powerful political correctness is, because it was political correctness and fear of talking about these issues, fear of losing your job, fear of being kicked out of your little social group, fear of being attacked. A multitude of these things resulted in people actually making the decision that rather than be labelled as a word, they'll turn a blind eye to children being raped and tortured. That is how powerful it is. It paralysed the entire nation from tackling this issue. So for me to come to the United States, to hear these discussions, to travel, to meet members of Congress, there's now 66 members of Congress under our caucus to discuss these topics. I have hope for America, because of your churches as well, because I've travelled around here, and before every meal people pray, every meeting we've had people pray. That's gone in the UK. It's coming back, something's happening. But that loss of identity, faith, understanding who we are and what built Britain. There's a famous interview with the Queen and they say, what built Britain? They ask her. I don't like her son, by the way, it's not my kid. But they asked what built Britain and she said the Bible. We lost it. And when you lose that, we didn't just lose it, there was a purposeful attack on family, church, everything that builds us together. They had a successful revolution. The far left have had their revolution. They've succeeded, open border mass immigration, breakdown of the family, all these different issues. But what fills that void? And I watch what fills that void. So I come here not to talk about what I've read. I come here to give a warning to America in the wish that someone comes to my hometown 30, 40 years ago and said, here's what's going to happen. Here's how it's going to happen. And the biggest problem is we can lay out what Islam is, we can understand jihad, we can understand all these things. But it wouldn't be able to do what it's doing without the help of, whether you call them the godless, whether you call them the far left, the communist, the Marxist, it's the alliance of the two. Because my hometown was taken over and it was handed on a plate. And all of the attacks that we faced, and all of the persecution that we faced, didn't necessarily come from the Muslim community. It come from those in power who were facilitating the Islamisation or the Islamic takeover. You have to understand the power of politics and how much they care about power as well. In the sense that the leader of my council of mosques, we had 45 mosques. When I was born, we had one. We now have 45. My local council do a deal for the Labour, which is your Democrat Party. They do a deal with the leader of the council of mosques. That leader of the council of mosques will guarantee them 100,000 votes. But we don't organise it. They organise in a military fashion. So when you're bringing Islamic communities in, and we look at Minnesota, for example. Look at the scale of the fraud. Would you have ever thought that that sort of fraud would be allowed, billions of pounds, whilst no one does nothing? But whether it's grooming, whether it's jihad, whether it's fraud, whether it's female genital mutilation, I don't know if you know what that is. So again, all of these subjects, they turn a blind eye to because they're coming from a community that they're going to rely on. And even if you look at the Somali community, they've come from the hottest place in the planet. And they've ended up in Minnesota. So they haven't chosen Minnesota. a plantation has been put in Minnesota, a purple state, where a birth rate is going to be the future. So it gets to a point, and I've seen this, because in my hometown, white English are a minority, we don't marry. We cannot win them the vote. So the council and the government don't care. Yeah? So we become totally irrelevant in the future.
And your hometown is Luton?
My hometown's Luton. In 2013, I went through the government projected growth forecast on the government's website to look at the projection by 2030. That's a 17-year period. The Pakistani and Bangladeshi community will go into increase by 70 to 77%. The white and black community by 1.2 to 1.4. Now, when you look at this, you understand why everything's headed their way. Because the future for Britain, the future for the left, it's the Islamic community. It's not us. We have 1.3 children, they have 5.6. Yeah? And what my warning to America is, you may be sitting here now without that many problems here from Islam, maybe. Yeah? And you might be looking at New York thinking it's New York. Like that. I'm telling you, like that. You will look around your town and go, what happened? What happened? I've seen